Good morning, students and professionals. Debating a campus ideology. The realization of a campus typology most definitely has its rightful place in our society. If we need to define this word campus, what will that be? Well, according to David Shane, a campus is a significant insertion where the lives of young people in transition are regulated. It is also inter alia linked to a small city, especially when you look at the campus of Bloemfontein. It's literally a small town that can function on its own. It is a narrative, and this narrative is literally ever-changing. It is an experience. And at the end of the day, each student will have its own unique experience on this campus. It is an intentional community. And it's almost like as if it is a brand. For instance, Coffees versus IKEAs versus Oxford University, if you'd like. It is also a work of art. It could be a static art, but it can also be an ever-changing art if you look at the amount of diversity that happens on a campus. It is a living organism, something which has DNA, so it's very unique. It has a pattern code, and it could be a heterotopia, so places in our city, in our society that are different because of the rituals and the way these spaces are being used. Or a campus could be a student's pilgrimage from immaturity to maturity, which is not always the case, as you might know. Hopefully, these theoretical statements will influence our preconceived idea of what a campus is and what the ideal campus will be. Some of us, we think that this could be the ideal campus, a few Gothic buildings on site with a neatly cut lawn and a fence. According to its Latin interpretation, the root word for campus means field, which rather suggests the spaces in between buildings. The ideal campus should therefore be a place where all spaces are designed to activate dialogue, something not only reserved for the interior of the traditional academic building. And this we can look at the spaces literally in between buildings, but it also suggests the spaces, for instance, a courtyard space inside a building. In principle, the University of the Free State had a medium-low density, which means there were a lot of this field space that had to be reconsidered in order for meaningful dialogue to take place. In order to illustrate this negative field space, we can briefly study the Kwakwa campus of the university as precedent. A campus which has a actually extremely very low density at the moment. So what are we looking at? This is then the Kwakwa campus. This is the laser. This is the access road towards the campus. The entrance gate is from this side. Then we have some hostel developments, the main dining hall, or the student center. And then we have the academic buildings and the admin building in that area. But it's extremely low density. For instance, walking from the hostel to the dining hall is literally 120 meters. Or if you need to walk from the dining hall to the academic buildings, another 100 meters. Now literally there is one positive thing to say about this. At least this type of urban planning or campus planning will eliminate first year syndrome. We know the Bloemfontein campus is not nearly in such an extreme state of no man's land. By analysing a knowledge diagram of the campus prior to 1990, the medium low density is quite evident. But I see there's still a few slides. Sorry, this is about the Kwakwa campus, and you guys can still see that incredible amount of field space or no man's land between buildings. This is the next slide as well. Completely open. This is then the dining hall, walking towards that. Okay, so the knowledge diagram of the University of the Free State, we can see there that the red buildings and the yellow buildings, that are buildings that were built between the 1900 and up to the 1950s. The purple buildings is from 1950 till 1970, and then we have the green buildings from 1970 up till 1990. We can clearly see there the main building of the university, and then there's the Cecil Library and the Benedictus Kok building, which was at the time the student center. This diagram also identifies the weaknesses of the master plan. Firstly, walking from residential, as is in the case of the Kwakwa campus, to the academic buildings was not a pleasant exercise. And secondly, DF Malherbe Avenue divided the campus into a west and east campus. So here we see DF Malherbe dividing the campus into an east and a west campus. Looking back at the University of the Free State campus structural plan that was adopted in 1999, the key objective was literally to consolidate these two campuses, the west and the east, and obviously to densify the campus with projects or buildings where feasible. After being appointed as head of Department of Architecture in the early 1990s, Prof. Bonnie Briss offered the university his experience and expertise regarding campus and urban planning. In his inaugural address in 1993, he proposed that the university campus, with its initial neat horseshoe-shaped nucleus, which was obviously the heart of the campus, over there, that horseshoe, beautiful gardens and dignified buildings from different periods be refurbished to adapt to the spirit of the time. Now, as you might think, that statement or that idea, not everybody welcomed his view at the time. Due to the prevailing financial constraints, expansion and development on the campus came to a virtual halt between the 1990s up to 2001. To give you an example, the first large-scale building to be erected after Wynand Maton Theatre in 1883 was the Pharmacology Building in 1995, so it's literally a 13-year gap. In 1998, however, a new committee system was introduced which gave Prof. Bits the opportunity to make proposals as to how to improve the infrastructure on campus. The Durban-based firm Markovich English also proposed an urban design plan which was approved by the University Council just before the turn of the new millennium. The plan outlined an integrated academic centre merging the east and the west campus bisected by DF Malherbe Avenue. So there you can see the idea of the student centre as a bridge over DF Malherbe. Included in the structural plan were recommendations for the erection of a new student centre. Like I said, it was suggested that the east and west campus be joined by the student centre, which would serve as a bridge between the library and the existing campus, east and west of the DF Malherbe. Now, at the time, there was an alternative option which also surfaced, and the idea was to make literally like an opening to the campus from this DF Malherbe. So the idea was to have stairs going up to the east campus and stairs going up to the west campus, and by that way linking the two campuses. But as you might think, that is much more easier said than done. By the time the Benedictus Kok Student Centre had long ceased to be satisfactory for its purpose, the new student centre was identified early on as a facility that could be a catalyst for campus dialogue. The concept of the design for the new student centre is part of the tradition of the French Pont Maison, a street building that spans over a river. So it's the idea of a building that spans over a river, and there you guys can actually see the president of regionalism in French architecture. Now, although the accommodation list is a bit different, in this instance we have accommodation that is more residential, and in our campus or the student center it would be a lot more commercial. At the end of the day, it's the same principle where dialogue is initiated, especially if you look inside this building that acts as a bridge over a river. The center was planned as a bridge of shops connecting the neighboring context of a divided east and west campus. And I'm just going to show you a series of concept sketches as well, and concept design. The busy thoroughfare was lowered to allow campus traffic to cross over via 2 vehicle bridges. So there's the first concept model. So our idea was to lower the Malabo, and you will have the new student center as a bridge over the avenue and some pedestrian access as well. There's a second concept model. And the third idea. In addition to offices and relevant facilities for the Dean of Students, the Takaneng Bridge houses the Student Representative Council, the Erewa editorial offices, and an e-learning IT lab. The commercial section includes many food outlets, a bookshop, general student businesses, a supermarket, as well as a number of outside gathering and meeting spaces. The campus of the University of the Free State is not part of the urban fabric of a city. Let's say for instance, Stellenbosch University, or the Stellenbosch campus, which is part of the urban fabric. The commercial facilities in the vicinity of the campus are not conveniently close, and the center therefore offers facility that caters directly to the needs of the student or the students. A name for the new student center was launched as a competition. Now, although Mandela at 85 with the @ at 85 was a favorite, the Sesotho word Takaneng prevailed, which means a place where young people come together to learn. And that is hand in hand with dialogue. Although the planning and the construction of the student center dominated the period, a strategic pedestrian network development also surfaced at the turn of the millennium. Before the 1990s, the campus was laid out in such a way that it was extremely difficult and at times dangerous for a pedestrian to get from one place to another. Bunny Brits carefully studied walking patterns of the everyday student to develop a master plan for a hard surface pedestrian network. Wide, well-lit paved walking paths with benches, rubbish bins and notice boards at suitable places now link the hostels with the academic and admin building of the West and the East campus. As you all might know, the entire atmosphere of the campus changed due to that. Together with the Takaneng Bridge as a main pedestrian artery to and from the library, the paved pedestrian network insertion with its sports and socializing areas gave students a platform to spend time on campus and not just to rush off to town or to a hostel after a class. Provision was made for safe crossing over busy streets, which also includes suitable access for people with disabilities. And a number of trees were planted to ensure a shaded walking experience where needed. These routes also include directional wayfinding to further initiate dialogue on campus. So, this is then the Nolly diagram, which indicates buildings that were built from the 1990 up till 2012 or up to today, and that is obviously the blue insertion. You guys can see there the Takaneng Bridge as a bridge building between the West and the East campus, and then obviously the densification program to densify the campus where feasible. And then these two hostels there on the West campus, that is the latest buildings that have been completed on campus. The densification of the campus promoted pedestrian on the one hand, which goes without saying. If you densify something, obviously then it's easier to walk and you most likely will walk. But by densifying a campus or urban plan, then obviously you need to take out a lot of parking space. So that was the other problem that happened. It created a parking problem on the other. So to solve that, parking pockets, if you'd like, were identified on the outskirts of the campus periphery. So you can see the parking pockets that were identified. These areas therefore encourage pedestrianisation by making it relatively easy for students to find a parking space after which he or she can head into the direction of a class with a comfortable walking distance. Today, the mature landscape of the campus is well maintained and enhanced with an environment which proudly compares with what the best campuses worldwide has to offer. The principles for development at the Bloemfontein campus are the same as for the proposed development of the campus in Kwakwa. So the idea is to learn of the success that we had in Bloemfontein and to apply that in the Kwakwa campus. So if we look back at the locality plan of the Kwakwa campus, the focus includes densification. So that is the existing buildings. So if we just look at this section where the residential buildings are placed, that building and that building over there, or the combination of buildings that were student residences, and then this was the first new student residence that were completed last year. So the idea of densification already emerging in that area. So the focus includes densification on campus and the creation of a pedestrian-friendly landscape at the end of the day. A strong emphasis on providing suitable residential accommodation has already resulted in the construction of new residences, a modern computer lab, as well as an upgraded student center, or more a dining hall. So that dining hall over there have been upgraded, and we've got the insertion of a new IT or computer lab to the east. And then the whole idea is to, at the end of the day, densify this campus in a similar way. On this campus, the absence of suitable dialogue spaces, especially outside, has been identified for this proposed master plan. The university recognizes that a well-planned and attractive campus environment forms an integral part of the learning experiences of students and their transformation as future leaders of our society. Thank you.